All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining. If you are seeing this, it means that you are watching the live stream. So please go ahead and ask any questions that you may have in the chat today as I go through our topic. I'm going to walk through some quick slides and then show you all a demo. And at the end of the demo, I'm going to circle back to the chat and answer your questions. I'm really excited to have you all here, and I am ready to jump into it. If you are having any audio issues, go ahead and try to refresh your page. That usually helps clear out any of those audio issues. So give that a shot. And as we're kind of getting set up for today, go ahead and let us know where you're joining from in the chat. Looks like we've got people from all over the country: Virginia, Florida, Indiana, North Carolina. All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining. So without further ado, hi, I'm Franz Pear with Skyline, and today we're going to be decrypting SSL traffic using an SSL key. More accurately, actually, it's the SSL key log file that you can export from your computer. And the reason why this is really important is that SSL is becoming a lot more prevalent. HTTPS traffic is secure web traffic. And oftentimes, if you are doing a packet capture and you are going to connect to different websites and you want to go and actually analyze that traffic for your own kind of practice and debugging purposes, if it has HTTPS, by default, Wireshark cannot decrypt that traffic. You actually need to provide the key file to allow Wireshark to decrypt that traffic so you can actually see what's happening, because otherwise you are going to see just encrypted traffic in your Wireshark view. So this is super helpful if you are trying to debug an SSL application, or you're trying to identify what is the data being sent across the network. Sometimes enterprises might capture this information to be able to see what's going on while still having encrypted traffic in transit. So before we start diving into decrypting the SSL traffic, let's learn a little bit of how SSL is used to encrypt the traffic in the first place. So the S in HTTPS, it stands for secure. And the way that the traffic is being secured is by using this SSL TLS for encryption. A quick note is that SSL is an older technology. It's been basically entirely replaced with TLS for some time now. But because it was what came first and they serve the same purpose, the word SSL, the acronym SSL, is still often used to refer to TLS. And so you might see me using both SSL and TLS interchangeably today, because it's still very prevalent that SSL is used to refer to both. And so I have a quick diagram here for how this process works. And what you can see is that the client, when it attempts to connect to the server, the first thing that it will do is that it will send a TCP connection. It will kind of initiate that, and the server will receive it, and they will go through the normal TCP handshake process. And if you're not familiar with that, we've done a previous video covering the TCP handshake process, but that is a separate protocol that HTTPS is built on top of. So it'll first establish the TCP connection, and after that, there will be the TLS handshake. Once that handshake is completed, the outcome is that a session key will be generated, and that session key is what will be used to actually go and actually encrypt the data that is being sent back and forth between the client and the server. So the HTTP traffic, what the application is sending, is going to be exactly the same, with the caveat that the data is going to be first encrypted with the session key. So the underlying protocol itself doesn't really change. Now let's take a look into the actual handshake process. One quick thing to note here is that I'm going to show just the general handshake process. I wanted to simplify it a little bit because there are just some extra steps which I don't think really help understand the concept. They are just there because they practically need to be there. So I'm just going to omit those to make it a little bit easier to understand for the purposes of demonstration. I'm also going to be using TLS 1.2 as the basis here rather than 1.3. 1.3 has some shortcuts to make the process even faster, but I think those shortcuts, while they're good for efficiency, they make it hard to kind of conceptualize what's going on. So I'm going to do this example using 1.2. And I'm only going to show the core crypto-specific applications. And so those additional steps that I mentioned, like choosing what type of cipher we're going to use and some of the acknowledgements and confirmation messages, I've left those out because they don't involve the crypto component. I want you to kind of just understand how the encryption happens. So the first thing that happens is that you have the client here on the left, and they're going to send the traffic to the server. And so they want to establish an HTTPS connection. And this, we're going to assume that the TCP connection has already been established. So we're only looking at this handshake, the dotted lines here from this slide. We're only looking at these dotted lines. So before what we're going to be going through, before this, a TCP connection has already been established. So that's a prerequisite here. So the TCP connection has been established. What's going to happen is the client is going to send something called a client random. So this is a series of random characters that will eventually be used for the encryption. The server receives this client random, highlighted in red, and it will take that and it will reply back and say, here is my server random, so another series of random characters, and my SSL certificate. So the SSL certificate, if you're not familiar, anytime you go to an HTTPS website, if you click on that little lock icon, it should actually give you information about the SSL certificate. That is the public, it contains the public key of the domain that the server is representing. In theory, right? It could be intercepted and an adversary might send something that is not the correct certificate, or maybe there's a misconfiguration. But in normal usage, that SSL certificate is going to contain the public key for the domain that is being requested. Now, the client is going to get both the server random and the SSL certificate, and it needs to verify that the certificate is valid. This is how it is going to be able to prevent some sort of man-in-the-middle attack. Because if an adversary is able to intercept this traffic and they're able to change the SSL certificate, then what they can do is, in theory, they could trick the client into establishing an encryption key with the adversary rather than with the server, and that will allow the adversary to then decrypt all the traffic. So we want to make sure that this SSL certificate is actually valid. And the way this happens is that there are root certificates, these core certificates that are pre-installed in every single operating system, every single browser, and those are being used. Those are the certificate authorities. They are being used to actually go and validate that the SSL certificate provided by the server is valid and for the domain that was requested. So you will have these certificate authority certificates in your browser, and when the server is sending over its SSL certificate, it will say, hey, this is my SSL certificate. This was signed by this authority, and you can go and verify that indeed this was the authority, that like A, you have that authority in your browser, and B, that the crypto signature is valid, that it is not tampered with. And so that's actually what is providing the security in this process. So once that has been validated, the client has this client random, it has a server random. Now, the issue so far is that this information has currently been sent in plain text because we have not yet started the encryption process. We don't have a way of encrypting data at the moment. So at the moment, anyone can see the client random and anyone can see the server random if they are able to intercept this traffic. So now we have to actually go and do something about that, because if we only use the client random and the server random to generate an encryption key, well, anyone who is able to see the client random and the server random, they could also generate the encryption key and decrypt all the traffic as well. So the way that this actually happens is that the client will create what is called the pre-master secret, and it will encrypt that pre-master secret using the public key from the SSL certificate. And that will get sent across the internet, and only people who have the private key, the corresponding private key from that SSL certificate's public key, only they should be able to decrypt that pre-master secret. And so this is being sent over the internet, but it is encrypted, so people cannot decrypt and get that pre-master secret in theory. But the server can actually go and decrypt the traffic and obtain the pre-master secret. And then at this point, the combination of the client random, the server random, and the pre-master secret can be used by both sides to actually generate the encryption key. And what you can see here is that basically what has occurred is that the client has generated that pre-master secret. So of course it knows what that is, and then it gets sent to the server, and now the server knows what it is. And if they use all three of these pieces of information, no one should be able to generate their session key, because if they were able to intercept the traffic, how would they might get the client random, they might get the server random, but how did they get the pre-master secret? So in theory, the only way that they could actually get the session key is if they compromised either the client or the server to get access to that pre-master secret key. Now, the public and the private key, that whole thing from the SSL certificate, that is using asymmetric encryption. So the server sends its public key in the SSL certificate and uses its private key to decrypt the traffic. That is asymmetric encryption. The reason why we are generating this new session key is because we're actually going to switch from using asymmetric encryption to symmetric encryption. And the reason for this is that symmetric encryption is a lot faster, a lot more efficient at encrypting and decrypting than the asymmetric encryption. So in theory, the server could continue using its public key and private key and ask the client, hey, give me your public key and encrypt your public key with my public key so I know who you are, and when you send me information that it's coming from you. They could, in theory, continue using asymmetric encryption to communicate, but that's a lot less efficient. And so instead of doing that, they actually switch to using symmetric encryption, where this yellow session key, it is known by both the client and the server, and they're going to both use the exact same key for encrypting and decrypting the messages that they send back and forth. And so at this point, the public key and the private key from that SSL certificate, they're no longer needed. They're no longer going to be used in the SSL TLS process. So now the client will then go ahead, and from back earlier in the slides here, the client will then go ahead and start sending HTTP requests, and it will encrypt those HTTP requests with the session key. The server will then use the session key to decrypt those HTTP requests, and then the reverse will happen. When the server sends the response, it will encrypt the response using the session key and send it back to the client, and then the client can again decrypt that traffic. So this is how the crypto works. So now that we know how it works, how do we actually go about decrypting it? So to decrypt the traffic, what we're going to need to get access to is that pre-master secret, because as I showed in the slides, the client and the server secret, those are the client and the server random, those are both sent over the internet in plain text, so anyone can access those. What we really need is that pre-master secret. And so the way that this can be obtained yourself, if you want to try this out, is that you can set the SSL key log file environment variable in your operating system to a file path that you want to save that information to. So that works in Windows, Mac, or Linux. And once you've generated that keylog file, you can import it into Wireshark to decrypt the SSL traffic. Now, the SSL keylog file is going to save both the client random and the pre-master secret. to make it easier for Wireshark, because you need to know which pre-master secret corresponds to which client random. Otherwise, you don't know which one goes to which. There's a good chance that there are going to be many different SSL connections and sessions in that log file and in your Wireshark traffic, in your packet capture. And so having the pairing of the client randoms to the pre-master secrets is going to help Wireshark know which pre-master secret to use. And of course, again, the server random was sent in plain text, so that doesn't need to be included in that file. Wireshark can figure it out. And you can also see that based on the method that we're using here, this is actually a pretty secure crypto like implementation here, because an adversary from the internet, they can't actually go and get the information that they need to decrypt this traffic. The way using this SSL key log file method would require compromising the client, the victim's machine there, to go and generate these logs and then take them and then decrypt the traffic, which at that point, if you have access to the victim's machine, you don't even need to bother with this in the first place. You can probably get the decrypted traffic from the client's machine directly. You don't have to go and pull the SSL information and then decrypt it separately. It's a possibility, but the victim has way bigger problems at that point beyond just having their HTTPS traffic decrypted if you have access to their machine. So this is actually pretty secure. Now, how do we actually do this in Wireshark? The way that you're going to do that in Wireshark, 3 steps: open up Wireshark, go to Edit, Preferences, then go to the Protocol section, select either TLS, or in older versions of Wireshark, you're going to select SSL, and then there will be a section for you to import that SSL keylog file. And so that will be the pre-master secret log file name. That's the setting that you want to go and configure. So I did a lot of talking. Let's actually go and see this in action. Let's go and decrypt some traffic. And so what I have on my screen over here is I have a challenge from our practice environment. And this is the decrypt challenge. And I went ahead and I downloaded the decrypt packet capture and this SSL keylog file. And we've got a couple of questions here that we want to answer, but primarily the main task is that we want to decrypt the SSL traffic, the HTTPS traffic, so that we can get the plain text flag that was being transferred. And so what I have over here is my Wireshark. And in Wireshark, I am going to go to the Edit, and then Preferences. I'm going to expand Protocols, and then scroll all the way down. I am looking for TLS over here. And you can see that there's the option to provide the pre-master secret log file name. I'm going to go and select that. And that will actually go and help us decrypt the traffic. So that's the process. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the decrypted traffic, show you how to solve these questions. And if you're interested, I'm going to loop back and actually show you what you see if you can't decrypt the traffic. Because right now, actually, just like a quick preview, let me cancel out of this actually. As a quick preview here, if I just search for HTTP, I get nothing. I don't get any HTTP traffic that Wireshark is able to see. So we actually need to go to our preferences and then TLS, provide that log file, hit OK, and now magically we start getting these green HTTP traffic that Wireshark has been able to decrypt. So it's that simple. It's really that simple. I think the harder part is actually being able to get the file either by configuring your computer to go and generate it, or if you're trying to take this from an adversarial perspective, how do you go and get that file from your target? That's going to be the bigger challenge than the decryption using Wireshark. And so let's go take a look at the questions that we've been asked here. The very first question is, what cipher suite is being chosen by the secure socket server? And so if I go and look here, I can look for the TLS traffic. So I can see TLS 1.2, TLS 1.2, and the questions asking that is chosen by the secure socket server. So we're going to be looking for something that the server sent. And we can see here, this is server hello, certificate server key exchange. So let's take a look and expand this a little bit further. And we can expand the transport layer security, and we can see server hello. We've got TLS 1.2. We've got the handshake protocol. And then we can see as well the cipher suite. We have this TLS RSA with AES 128 GCM SHA 256. So that is the cipher suite. So what I can do is I can actually right click on this value and then do copy value. And hopefully I can get this right. If I, oh, it copied the actual like raw value, not the the dissection of it. So I think I can probably copy the description then. Yes. So if I copy the description, that will be what I need. This one's too long, so I'm just going to shorten it a little bit. And I have that as a correct answer. Let me actually zoom in a little bit so this is a little easier for you all to see here. All right. And now we are on the next question. What domain is covered by the SSL key? And for that, I mentioned that the SSL key is being provided with the SSL certificate. So if we take a look at the certificate, it should tell us what domain that certificate is for. And so I'm going to go and look at the certificate section here. So we are going to go into the certificate section and expand that. That is this over here. And then the certificate is here. And we can see some information about who this domain is for. So you can see here, the common name is tomsvacations.com. So that is the domain for this SSL certificate and thus the SSL key. So this is tomsvacations.com. Perfect. And now for the last question, what is the file name transferred over HTTPS? So if I now look for the decrypted, the now plain text HTTP traffic, I can see here there is a GET request for flag.txt. That looks like what we're looking for. And if I follow the TCP stream, oop, that is not what we want. I must have clicked the wrong thing. I want to follow the HTTP stream. That is what I want. So we have the HTTP stream there. I think we need to look at the, that was the request. I think we need to look for the response. Are we able to see that? Follow HTTP stream. Must be missing something. All right, chat, let me know. What am I missing? What am I doing wrong? I'm going to actually do a search for HTTP response and see if we can. Nope, that's not in here. Let's look at the data here. It's also possible that I downloaded a bad a bad packet capture. So I'm actually going to go and try to re-download the packet capture because it looks like maybe that is the issue. right. This is the the fun part of doing it live. I think there's probably something wrong with the PCAP that I have because all the traffic is decrypted. So I'm going to kind of debug what might be going on here, but so that you all are not waiting for me to go figure this out, go ahead and ask your questions in the chat, and I'll start answering them as I try to get this sorted out. All right. Let's see some of the questions. What do you all have for me here? All right. Yeah, mostly questions people asking for what's going on with the flag there. Let me go back to the question. What is the flag transferred over HTTPS? Yeah, I think there might be an issue with the packet capture. Let me go and download it from here. All right. That was way more complicated, way less complicated than I made it out to be. So I actually just selected the wrong option for following the stream. I selected follow the HTTP stream. I should have done the follow the TLS stream. So what we can see here, there's a get request for flag.txt, the server responds 200 OK, and then here's the flag. So that is the way that it should have been done. All right, we finally got it solved. Thanks for bearing with me. You all had to watch that live, so I'm sure that was fun. All right, are there any other questions that you all have about how to go about solving solving this challenge and how TLS works? Christopher is asking. Christopher's asking, how do you get the session key from your browsing session? So I had mentioned this in the slides briefly. Let me go back to that real quick. So in the slides, I mentioned that you can set this environment variable for the, let me get that. Okay. You can set this environment variable for SSL key log file. That can be done in Windows, Mac, or Linux. So if you just go online and you go look that up, there are guides to show you how to go and do that. On the Mac and Linux is very straightforward, where you kind of just in the command line just type in like export, and then you put in the environment variable equals, and then like the file path. Windows, you have to jump through some like actual settings panels to go in and get that set up. But the best way to go and learn how to do that would be to use a guide. What other questions does the chat have? If we have the private key, then how do you decrypt the traffic? So if you have the actual private key, and not just this SSL key log file, I believe that there is another drop down, or there's another setting within the profile. So preferences, protocols, TLS, pre-shared key. You can type in the pre-shared key there as well, or you can add in your SSL keys using this RSA keys list. Just plop them in here as well. All right. Christopher is asking, what if you're using a man in the middle, doing some black box testing or session hijacking? There is no good solution to this. That's why our internet is kind of still secure, at least until someone is able to break all of our modern crypto functions. But yeah, I mean, if you are trying to do a man in the middle attack, you have to compromise either side of it, in like either the server or the client, in order to facilitate something. You can't just go from a straight up man in the middle attack unless you have a supercomputer that is able of just brute forcing the SSL key. So there's no good solution at the moment. But yeah, I mean, like I said, if you are trying to do a man in the middle attack, you actually you need to have access to the system, in which case you can do a lot more damage than decrypting their traffic. You could do a keylogger, you could do a ransomware attack. There's a ton of things that you could do. Yeah, fortunately for all of us who transact business online over the internet, SSL and HTTPS are rather secure from a man in the middle attack. Okay, follow-up question. Can we capture the encrypted session cookie? So this is operating at a different level than HTTPS. So you could steal their cookies, but that is not attacking at that level of the encrypted traffic. What you could do is take the session cookie from HTTPS, the HTTP session cookie, and impersonate the victim. However, you're going to need to get that session cookie somehow. And maybe you can do an HTTP-based man-in-the-middle attack, but that only works if, A, it is HTTP, because if it is HTTPS, you can't do a man-in-the-middle attack. So you can't get that encrypted session cookie. Or you do an application layer attack, where basically they click on a button, and then whatever they click on, that is going and actually stealing their session cookie, and then they can impersonate you. But they're not doing a standard man-in-the-middle attack where they're just sitting in the middle of you in the server and just listening to your network traffic. That needs to be an application layer attack, where they're maybe doing a click-jacking attack on the web page. And so that's a way to do it. I would say that it's a completely different attack. You're not doing the same thing. That will not allow you to read the traffic going back and forth with the active session that the victim has. That will allow you to impersonate the victim. But let's just say a victim is going in and logging in to check their bank accounts information and everything. You aren't able to steal their session cookie, their HTTP session cookie, and see what they're doing at that time. You could impersonate them and see what their current account balance is and everything, but you can't see the historic information from that session. So yeah, hopefully that clears that up. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Hopefully you all found that helpful. If you have other suggestions for other topics you want us to cover, leave them in the chat. We're going to be covering another topic next week or the week after. And so keep checking these out if you find them useful. And if you're participating in the NCL games, good luck. Check out the practice gym. This is one of the challenges that's included in the practice gym. And until next time, see you later. Thanks, everyone.